Hey everybody, welcome back to the Doggone Positive Way. My name's Maria. I am your host and your dog trainer. This is part 3 of my amazing interview with Carolyn Murray, the wilderness vet. We're talking all about balls, not the kind you throw. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. This is a real short little excerpt, and I hope you have a good time listening, and I want to know what you think about this stuff. Do you think all of our pets should be spayed and neutered when they're 8 weeks old, earlier, younger, older? What do you think? Let me know. We want to hear about it. Thanks. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps the channel, and let's get all this information out to everybody. Thanks so much. Love you guys. Bye.
One thing that's become like a really interesting and quite controversial topic in the vet world, and I'm kind of interested in the trainer world, is neutering. So we used to have this thing, like definitely in the Western world, where everything has to be neutered by 6 months because obviously population control is a big thing. And then it became evident that like these big dogs, like late maturing dogs, actually neutering isn't so good at that age, and you can get like orthopedic problems, which then all the insurance people have picked up, so that affects that. And so now they're saying, you know, these bigger later maturing dogs, it's best to wait till they're about a year old to neuter them. But then that also goes back to really training, and socialization is really important, because some of those big dogs can develop quite like out of control behaviors by then, if you haven't kind of got on top of like how to, you know, like just manage like their instincts and, you know, what they need, like meet their needs. The other thing with neutering, and so aggressive dogs, like what people used to say is like, it's aggressive, you need to neuter it because like testosterone. But actually, if they're like nervous, obviously, as you know, there's like lots of different kinds of aggression. And if they're very like nervous or fearful aggressive, and you neuter them, which can be quite a traumatic experience going to the vet, sometimes that can make that worse. So back to what you were saying, like it's so important to have like a good rapport between like the owner, the trainer or behavior person, and the vet, so we can all work on like individual tailored best outcome for the dog, because, you know, once it's neutered, you can't kind of go back from there. And that's good from a breeding, population control, and passing on the hideous genetics control. But the timing of it can be really crucial, and can also be like make or break for like behavior issues. So it's really important to kind of everyone to be aware of that, and to liaise with all your like animal vet behavior training people, and work out, okay, this is my situation, what is the best, not just generalize. But on the same note, like all the shelters, I'm not sure what it's like in the States, but, and I can understand why they do it, we're neutering kittens from 1 kilo plus, and everything in the shelter is neutered before it's rehomed, because that's what needs to happen. So it's kind of like a bit of a dichotomy of like, how do we manage this?
I know, it's such a clusterfuck in your head, because it's like, oh my God, right, we have the same thing here. And I think it is very important, especially with the large breeds, to keep them intact, you know, to a little over a year. And I know some people are going to hear me say that, and they're going to be like, oh my God, Maria, what the hell are you saying? But it's similar, because we do the same thing here. The early spay neutering in shelters, you know, they're little and they're getting done because they can get done, because it's not a situation where you can control once that pet leaves the shelter that you're going to be able to track that animal and that person, and they're going to do what, you know, you think the responsible thing to do is, blah, 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 blah. It's difficult. But yeah, like if I bought a purebred dog, I would leave the dog intact. And actually, it's not even that it's like so new, because years ago, and this is going back, I don't know, like 92 or something, I was still living up in New York, and I adopted this male dog from the shelter, and it was like, here's a voucher, you'll get this money back once you get him neutered. And they wanted him neutered by a specific age, and I stonewalled them till he was 9 months, because I was like, no, he needs, like, I'm not going to, you know, He's not going to get anybody pregnant. I'm really responsible, et cetera, et cetera. But at 9 months, they were like, we're going to take him back. He's our dog technically. And I was like, all right, I'll get him neutered. But yeah, so because the science supports that. And I feel like aggression is lack of socialization, and fear, aggression, or this aggression or that aggression. I feel like it's all lack of socialization and the expectations that pet owners put on their dogs. The bar is so high, it's ridiculous. There's no way nobody can reach it. And it's like what they don't want to do what they need to do to get the dog to that point. So
yep.
I don't think that it's because they still have testosterone in them.
No.
And you're the vet, so you know that way better than I know. But yeah, I agree with you.
Having said that, we do now have like chemical castration, which is temporary. So that can be a really good way of saying like, okay, this could be part of the issue. Let's put this implant in. It lasts 6 months. And if the behavior improves, then we know that that is a big part of it. And then we can go from there. So we have got like a lot more options now, which is really good.
That's very interesting. Have you seen any data, or is there any data out there that's like, oh yeah, this is working and now it has nothing to do with testosterone? It's just straight up this dog is whatever.
So for instance, I saw a lady a few years ago when the implants just came out, and she had an entire male dog. It was a small dog. I think it was a Cavalier. Hadn't really been socialized, and it was just urinating all over the house, which is quite unusual for dogs. And one of her complaints was, the first complaint was the urination. The second was that she was clearing it all up and the husband wasn't, but the husband was very against getting the dog neutered. And so I made 2 suggestions. One was maybe start getting the husband to clean up the wee. But also let's try this to obviously, like, neutering straight off was going to be too confronting for him. So I was like, let's do this implant, and then if it works, because they work really quickly, it's like a testosterone blocker, and it's just an injection under the skin of like an implant. And so if this works and the behavior clears up, then we know it's testosterone driven, and within like a week the behavior had completely gone. So in that situation, it was really good. So then she could say to the husband, okay, like, you don't want the dog neutered, but the problem is like quite testosterone driven. And so neutering is going to fix this problem, which will make our life and a relationship easier. So then it was good for him to kind of see that. And sometimes in this country, or in male-dominated countries, the males of a couple are very anti getting the dog neutered. It doesn't have balls. So then what I've seen in America, but it's illegal here, is then they have neuticles, like the implants.
To tell you that, I had a client. He had this beautiful doctor. They were daycare training clients, and I was like, listen, you got to get your dogs neutered, Steve. Like, he can't keep coming here, I happen to have a couple show dogs too that would come, that they were not fixed or anything, but I allowed them to come and that type of thing. They were never in heat, whatever, responsible breeders, etc. So finally he got them done, and it's like, you got to feel them, Maria. They're cold. And I'm like, okay, Steve, like, what is it with you guys and your balls? Like, come on. First of all, how do you walk around with all that shit? Okay. Second of all, they're not yours. They're your dogs. It's like, there's like reasons why we do certain things. But oh my gosh, yeah, there was even a late night show here, and they had a song called Neuticles, and it was 2 bouncing balls instead of 1 bouncing ball. It's like on the Dennis Miller show, like way back in the 90s. That just cracked me up. I couldn't believe that was really happening in my business, you know? I was like, come on, really?
I had like a kind of interesting situation a few years ago when I was working in a like a city, Christchurch City, which is fairly big and kind of progressive. But I think on your note of the dogs, often it's like the big dogs or kind of like the kind of macho dogs that they don't want neutered as well. So we had this situation where there was a big Mastiff dog and its testicles were so big that they were kind of dragging on the floor or getting in the way when it was lying down. It was an outside dog. And basically, like it had a hole in its scrotum. I'm not sure if you're allowed to talk about this on your thing. So that was like a problem. And so the solution to that was and it was getting really sunburnt. So I said to, like in this situation, like neutering is the best thing because like the environment is not conducive, like the dog can't live inside. And so the lady had the dog, but she had her kind of 20-something son living there. And he was very opposed to the neutering because he wanted the dog to have testicles.
Mm-hmm.
And day of the neutering, he tried to kidnap the dog so that they can neuter it. And then there was an interesting conversation where and the lady rang up the son while we were all in the consult room and said, look, the dog's got a hole in its testicles. It's very painful. It can get infected. How would you feel if you had a hole in your testicles? Like, this needs to be resolved.
Like, you have to get down to that point, but okay, how would you feel?
And obviously the son would not want them removed, but there was a solution. And so the other thing that the son was so sometimes you can often we like leave the scrotum there so it still looks like it has something, but then it eventually shrivels up. But in this case, because it was so big and it was like damaged, physically damaged, so we had to kind of like remove it and almost do a little kind of tuck. So then to the young guy, the dog looks like a female, so he's not liking that. But I think once they get used to that, and I think sometimes you have to think, okay, what's best for the dog? Like there's what my cultural beliefs are, but at the end of the day, we're all here for like the welfare of the dog, optimal welfare of the dog.
That's right. That's right. But that's a funny story. It does seem to be very male tied to men, I have to say. It's like, come on, it's yours. It's okay. Don't worry. It'll be okay. We'll give you a beer and a steak. You'll be fine. But have you seen, I've only seen this once in my career, a genetic, a dog who was born and they were just aggressive from the get-go. Like, have you seen any animals, I don't know, I know you work mostly with large animals, but have you experienced anything like that?
No, I work with all animals, Maria, like everything. I do a lot of domestic stuff. The only thing that really comes to mind is quite a long time ago in the UK, I saw a Shar-Pei puppy and it was 8 weeks old and it was so aggressive that I could barely vaccinate it. I couldn't hardly handle it. And that was quite shocking to me. And the owner had never had Shar-Peis, wasn't really aware of like the issues that they can often be aggressive later, but I've never seen it so young, and and didn't seem to be aware that I was trying to explain to her, like, if this is the situation when it's 8 weeks old, when it gets to like 30 kilos, this is going to be much more of a problem. And I don't know the background of like the dog and the breeding and like but there must have been something. A lot of it is genetic, but there's also Shar-Peis that are not aggressive, but something must have gone wrong in the first 8 weeks for it to be that severe. Like we had to put like a muzzle on an 8-week-old puppy.
Oh, wow. What did they ultimately do? Did they euthanize or did they train or did you ever see them again? Or
I mainly do locum work, so I wasn't there for a long time, so I didn't see it again. But I think it was quite confronting for the owner.
Hey, everybody. Wow, that was such a funny excerpt, but very informative. Did you know that there was a way to chemically castrate a dog? I had no idea that even was a possibility. So it was so interesting to talk about the link from a veterinarian's point of view of the link between aggression and testosterone. So hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Bye.